Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. The blatant cheating and wanton violence in Zimbabwe's 2008 elections is one of the many dark chapters in the country's history. What happened that year changed the course of history. If there had not been the blatant cheating and wanton violence, Zimbabwe would have taken a totally different route. So it is important that we should examine what exactly happened and landed the country into the mess that it is in. The truth is beginning to come out. What really happened? Here is Mugabe speaking, followed by Mnangagwa giving an account of what really happened.
When Tsvangirai got 73%, Tsvangirai got 4%. Ndokukangana kuti tinokwanisa kurusa. Saka MDC 2008 takatadza kuwana majority kuti titonge asakaramba tirimo. Dr. Bamtasa ndandiri election agent ya president. My results are Buddha. Three party headquarters. Bamtasa Rangwari Secretary Railway Administration. Bamtasa Muripi, Dafona. Nilikuwa sapi. Koma kwenda kwa sapi seka results ashibuda kudai. Banga kaiwa zvako izvo Mnangagwa ndezvo kwenda kumusha. Office banga wabisa zvinhu zvavo zvose. Watofunga kuti zani adini? Yaparara. Umonotsvaka ndiani vagochi vanga vari secretary for security ndokutsvaka vagochi vakati aiwa ndiri kupindura ko iwe ndiwo security ka chef ndokwandiri wandakawana ari munzira ndasinombokuudza ndideleti manyika komisa ndofonera ndikawana vamanyika vanga vari munzira vakadzoka paheadquarters president ndofona zvakamira sei ndomamira zvakaita takatodini sakuti ndiri gweta ndaiziva kune clause yayo kuti you must have more than 50% plus 1 ndikati imwe maita 43 uyaita 47 asi pakati penyu hapana dini awina saka kunoitwa runoff tikanzi ahudza mama ndobva ndaudza mama kateda sei manje mama ndikati ahudzai baba nditaure navo baba gadzirai polity bureau cabinet musarangarira zvimwe zvinhu gadzirai chi cabinet asi nangoda kuti muzive kuti 2008 maresults abuda vamutasa vakatiza.
Well. That's Mnangagwa's version. And we have also heard Mugabe's version. Here is Dr. Ibo Mandaza giving the account of the same events.
I also know that Mugabe conceded defeat on 2008. He phoned Mbeki and Obasanjo to concede defeat. I hope that Thabo Mbeki and Obasanjo will one day make that public. But one of them, I won't say which one, told me that Mugabe phoned them that Saturday night and said, look, I lost the election and I concede defeat. And I know that Mugabe stuck to his guns, was prepared to go. His wife was since bags packed to go somewhere. on the following day when Mnangagwa and Chiwenga approached him and said, "You stay where you are." And then they contrived the runoff, sadly with the help of South Africa. And runoff took place, very violent. 360 people were killed. The South African, I came here as part of a delegation to Cape Town to see members of the ANC. I don't want to mention names, they're my friends. I saw them, and through them, a cabinet committee subcommittee of South African cabinet was set up on the Zimbabwe issue. It was on the basis of that cabinet committee that South Africa did not recognize the runoff. And indeed, it was the basis of that committee that Thabo sent the generals to South Africa, to Zimbabwe. I met them, and I was one of the few to have read the report, because I was flying to Joburg in the company of General Romano, who was a friend. He passed away, no? And I also took people who had lost their hands in the violence to the South African embassy in Harare. And Romano broke down in tears. How can a liberation movement treat these people like that? He was a broken man. So there's no doubt at all here in South Africa as to the brutality of the regime in Harare. So it amazes me, it angers me, in fact, when I hear the nonsense coming out of people like Mbalula's mouth. They know it. And the report has never been published, the general's report, to this day. That tells you. Is it complicit behavior? I don't know. But to get back to 2008, the runoff took place. Mugabe was sworn in at midnight before boarding a plane with Mbeki to Sharm el-Sheikh. Ambassador, I forgot to mention that. Yes? I won't talk about it was contrived, but clearly there was a definite plan to keep Mugabe in office. And it's no secret that I had Thabo speaking the other day, saying the Zimbabwean people came together to form the GNU. It's only half true. Tsvangirai was literally regimented into the GNU. That's a fact.
We cannot deny that the 2008 elections was the nearest Zimbabwe ever got to holding free, fair, and credible elections. And when the results were coming out, whilst others, Zanu PF leaders, were willing to accept the results, and that would have changed the course of history for Zimbabwe. Mnangagwa and Chiwenga, according to Dr. Ibo Mandaza, are the ones who told Mugabe that he was not going anywhere. You must stay. They went on to organize the operation, the military-style operation Mafotera Papi, Where Did You Vote? Where they punished the electorate for having rejected Zanu PF. They continue to reap that to this day. The violence of 2008, people remember it, particularly in the rural areas. They know that voting for the opposition in Zimbabwe would mean death. So ever since the 2008, the country has never had free, fair, and credible elections. 2008 elections, the March vote was the nearest the country ever got to free, fair, and credible elections. Here is Mugabe boasting, once he had been persuaded to stay on, he was boasting about how they could not let the ballots defeat the bullets.
Kana ini ndakakaisa bhairo panapa ndinochikanda pasi ndoti vakomana kwatakabva.
To be quite honest, this is the reality of Zimbabwe's politics. There was the opportunity during the GNU to implement the democratic reforms, which would have ended the blatant cheating and the want of violence. Unfortunately, not even one token reform was implemented during that period. But to go back to the 2008 itself, we cannot deny that if Zanu PF leaders had accepted the will of the people, Zimbabwe would have taken a completely different political path. A completely different. The country would have been, the history would have been rewritten. So we have got to go back to that history, to that period, and really carry out a thorough investigation of what happened. We already have snippets of what happened. Mnangagwa and Chiwenga orchestrated the Operation Mafotera Papi. For their role in that, they should have been sent to Chikurubi. We did not send them to Chikurubi. It is interesting that the same two individuals were to be involved in the 2017 military coup that putted Mugabe out of office. And the two took the office of the vice president for Chiwenga and the presidency from Mnangagwa himself. And he's still in State House to this day. Right now, he is orchestrating yet another move to help stay in power. We have started this campaign, the 2030 Mnangagwa Chiripo, which is designed to make him stay in office beyond the 2028 elections, when he is supposed to step down because he would have served the 2 terms. is now contriving to come up with an amendment of the Constitution to allow him to stay for another 2 more years, 2030, under the pretext that he is the only one capable of delivering Vision 2030, in which Zimbabwe's economy is supposed to revive so much that the country's GDP per capita, sitting at the moment at $2,000, is supposed to increase threefold to $6,000 per annum. An impossible task. He's not going to achieve it. Vision 2030 is a mirage, but he's using that mirage as cover to extend his own stay in power beyond 2028. He blatantly rigged the 2023. So he is already illegitimate anyway. But he wants to extend his stay in power by rigging, by changing the Constitution, and no doubt will rig the referendum that will follow. And every nation has to examine its past. What happened in 2008 is something that the country owes to itself and posterity to examine and come up with a true version of what really happened. And I think the realization that the two individuals who were involved in the electoral coup of 2008 should have been sent to prison and not allowed to assume the highest offices in the land. That was a big mistake. A mistake for which we are paying for dearly. These are some of the mistakes that a nation must learn from. And act accordingly. Because if we had learned the mistake, if we had demanded the truth be told, what happened in 2008, I think the nation would have been galvanized to do something about it. We did not. And so we did nothing. We must now look back at those historic events and establish the truth. Doesn't matter how much Mnangagwa tried to hide what happened. The truth of what happened in 2008 will come out someday. And the bit we already know leaves us with the conclusion that Mnangagwa should not be in office, should not be occupying the highest office in the land, nor should his assistant, Chwenga. They were the individual who orchestrated the 2008 electoral coup. That is the truth. Think about it. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.